It's 2 a.m. when the door splinters into the quiet of the night, shattering the stillness like thunder. The sharp sound echoes through the house, followed by the heavy stomps of boots across the hardwood floors. The dim glow of flashlights slices through the dark, as if the officers intend to carve through the very air. In an instant, they're inside, 3 officers, their movements swift and practiced. The lead detective kicks the doorframe with force, the wood splintering at his feet as his sergeant steps in behind him, hand on his weapon, eyes scanning the room. The captain follows, his eyes taking in the damage, but something is off. The woman jolts upright in bed, tangled sheets wrapping around her legs. Her heart races as the harsh light floods her face, momentarily blinding her. Dazed, she raises her hands, trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding around her. She's only wearing a tank top and underwear, vulnerability hanging in the air. Her mind sharpens, calculating the situation as her eyes dart across the room. Furniture is overturned, drawers are yanked open, and papers are scattered everywhere. But something stands out. There on the wall, hanging innocently, is a navy blue jacket with gold letters sewn across the back. FBI. The detective's flashlight freezes on the jacket. The seconds stretch out in silence. He can't believe what he's seeing. The radio crackles, an inaudible voice cutting through the tension. The sergeant's breath changes, sharp and deliberate, as if suddenly aware of a mistake he can't undo. Something shifts in the air. The woman, though shaken, remains eerily calm. She takes note of every face in the room, every detail, as if logging it into her memory. Her eyes flicker to the clock. It's 2:03 a.m. The sergeant's face betrays confusion, but they don't stop. They can't. She watches them carefully with the patience of someone who's been through worse. The detective, not fully grasping the weight of what he's stumbled upon, scans the room, touching her things with a practiced, almost mechanical precision. He moves toward her nightstand, glancing at her purse. "Look what we have here," he says, his voice low and filled with something almost playful, as his fingers slip into the purse's side pocket. A small bag of white powder catches the flashlight's beam, but the woman doesn't flinch. Her lips curl into the faintest of smiles, a knowing look flashing across her eyes. Her federal credentials were sitting in plain sight on her dresser, and they walked right past them. The detective holds the bag out for her to see, his voice dripping with mock authority. But she isn't reacting the way he expects. She's not panicked. She's calculating every move. In the quiet of the room, she shifts slightly, brushing her fingers against the edge of her bedsheet. Underneath, there's something they missed entirely. Her encrypted phone sits silently on the nightstand, charging, holding within it 15 years of federal cases, her life's work, waiting. The woman remains still, poised, watching as they make mistake after mistake, unaware of the storm they're about to unleash. The detective's hand hovers over the bag, ready to make his next move. "You ever dealt with drugs before?" She doesn't answer him immediately, her mind moving faster than her mouth. "I'm no criminal," she says, her voice a steady calm in the face of their chaos. Her eyes stay fixed on the detective. She's already piecing together his every move, the way he handles evidence like it's routine. For him it is, but for her this is far from random. She knows why they're here, even if they don't. This is the moment she's been waiting for, where everything she's been investigating collides with this one mistake they've made. Their ignorance will cost them. The detective picks up her federal credentials from the dresser, holding them up. His gaze shifts from the jacket on the wall to the badge in his hand. The realization hits like a weight in the pit of his stomach. But the show must go on. He turns, his voice lower now. "I need to see your ID. What's your real name?" "I think you know who I am," she replies without hesitation, her words measured. She's giving him just enough to chew on, but not enough to force a confession. "Don't play games with me," the detective warns. But there's doubt in his voice now. They thought this would be a routine bust, a minor mistake they could cover up. But it's not. The woman knows it, and they're just starting to realize it. As the tension in the room thickens, the woman remains perfectly still. Not a tremble in her hands, not a shift in her posture. It's as though she's watching them, studying their every move, anticipating their next mistake. The detective stands over her, uncertainty creeping into his features as he fumbles with her credentials. His fingers hesitate, momentarily betraying his professional demeanor. "I need to see your warrant," she demands, her voice unwavering, cutting through the chaos like a knife. The sergeant, still caught in the confusion of what's unfolding, mutters under his breath. "We don't need a warrant for a noise complaint." The woman's gaze doesn't waver. "You do for a search of this scale. You need a warrant to enter my home." There's a beat of silence. The captain, who's been quietly observing, steps forward, his gaze sharp. "Ma'am, we received reports of drug activity here. That's probable cause." Her expression doesn't change. She's not shocked. She's not even surprised. This was always coming. "From whom?" she asks, her voice sharp with authority. The officers exchange a glance, nothing but confusion flashing in their eyes. It's clear they weren't expecting the woman to challenge them this way. "Anonymous tip," the sergeant says, though his voice falters slightly as the words leave his mouth. "Anonymous tips don't justify warrantless searches," she responds with surgical precision. Her legal knowledge flows effortlessly, cutting through the lies like they were never there. "Miranda versus Arizona," she continues, eyes locked onto the sergeant. "Terry v. Ohio, Map v. Ohio. You've exceeded the scope of any noise complaint investigation. You've violated my constitutional rights." The detective's jaw tightens, his frustration growing. "You some kind of lawyer?" he sneers, clearly irritated by her calm, controlled responses. "I know my rights under the Fourth Amendment," she replies, her tone professional, almost as if she were discussing the weather. "This is an illegal search." The words hang in the air, sharp and unforgiving. The detective's patience is wearing thin, his earlier confidence slipping through his fingers. His eyes flicker to the captain, who's now visibly uncomfortable. "Ma'am," the captain finally says, "we just want to get to the bottom of this. We've got drugs in your house. You want to cooperate, or we can make this real difficult for you." Her calm smile doesn't falter. "I think I'll pass on cooperating. But I will cooperate in another way, by requesting to see your badge numbers, all three of you." For the first time, the detective's hand instinctively moves to cover his badge. He can't help it. It's a reflex, the unease in his gut growing stronger. He never thought a routine bust would turn into this. The sergeant grunts. "You're not in a position to be making demands. Every citizen has the right to identify officers conducting searches," she replies coolly. "Badge numbers now." The tension is palpable. There's a moment of hesitation before the detective slowly uncovers his badge, showing it to her with a scowl. The sergeant follows suit, and finally the captain, though visibly annoyed, does the same. She repeats each number back with precision, cementing them in her memory. "I also need confirmation that your body cameras are recording," she continues, her voice unwavering. The sergeant's hand moves to his chest camera, and the red light blinks steadily. "They're recording." "Good," she says, her voice still calm but now carrying a quiet weight. "So when this goes to federal court, there will be a complete record." The detective's expression hardens. He leans in closer to her, his face tight with frustration. "Listen, lady, we found drugs in your house. You can cooperate, or we can make this really hard for you." The woman doesn't flinch, doesn't even blink. She stares directly at him. "Option 1, I confess to crimes I didn't commit. Option 2, you manufacture additional charges. Which will it be?" The silence that follows is deafening. The sergeant freezes, his hand mid-reach, the air thick with the weight of her words. The detective's eyes narrow, the tension between them crackling. He doesn't respond immediately, and for the first time, doubt flickers in his eyes. "You've got a smart mouth," the sergeant mutters, but even he can't fully mask the unease in his voice. "I have constitutional rights," she replies simply, her voice even, unshaken. The detective steps forward, handcuffs clicking open in the air. "You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance." The sound of the cuffs snapping around her wrists seems to echo through the room, but the woman remains calm, her posture straight, her face impassive. "I'm being arrested based on planted evidence," she states clearly, her voice cold and sharp. The detective's hand twitches, and the sergeant, trying to assert some semblance of control, growls at her. "Shut up." "I have the right to remain silent," she says, her words cutting through the tension. "But I also have the right to speak. This is a false arrest based on fabricated evidence." The sergeant's rough grip pulls her arm, trying to force her out of the room, but she doesn't resist. Instead, she continues speaking, her voice never wavering. "I'm requesting immediate legal counsel. I'm requesting a supervisor. I'm requesting a review of the body camera footage." Her calm persistence unnerves them. Most people in her situation would be panicked, confused, begging for answers. But not her. She's dissecting their procedure like a surgeon. Every move, every flaw, every violation, catalogued in her mind. The captain, who has remained mostly silent, now steps forward, his eyes narrowing as he studies her. "You sure you want to take this route?" "Absolutely," she replies. "You've already made the mistake. Now you'll have to live with it." They push her toward the door, her mind still racing. She catalogues every violation, every piece of evidence that's been tampered with, the excessive force, the illegal entry, the rights she's been denied. Then, the detective, clearly growing desperate, asks, "How do you know so much about police procedure?" The question lingers in the air, but the woman doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. Her silence speaks volumes. They don't know it yet, but they've just walked straight into a trap they set for themselves. And she's been waiting years for this exact moment. The car door slams shut behind her, and the woman leans back against the cool metal of the police cruiser. The rough ride toward the station feels almost surreal. The officers up front, captain, detective, and sergeant, are doing their best to act normal, but their tension is palpable. Their glances flicker toward her in the rearview mirror, but she remains perfectly still, her gaze unfocused, locked onto the darkness outside the car. They think she's just a victim. They think they've got her cornered, but they're wrong. She's been watching them closely. Every move they've made, every corner they've cut, every mistake they've made. This isn't an arrest. This is the beginning of the end for them. The silence inside the car is thick, punctuated only by the low hum of the engine and the occasional radio crackle. Through the cracked window, the city lights flicker, the streets empty and quiet. But for the woman in the back seat, everything is coming alive. She's been collecting evidence for years, documenting every injustice, every instance of corruption. Now it's all about to come crashing down on them. She's not afraid, not one bit. They pull into the police station, the dull hum of fluorescent lights filling the air as they enter the building. The sergeant jumps out first, and the detective follows, muttering under his breath. The captain stands beside the car, casting a glance back at her, his posture stiff, trying to maintain control, but it's slipping through his fingers. They think they can just erase everything, but they're wrong. The woman's mind is already working, cataloging her rights, the illegalities of her arrest, and the mounting violations they've made. When they lead her through the station, she studies every corner. The faces of officers who don't even know who they're dealing with. The low hum of police radios in the background. The sound of a keyboard clicking furiously as paperwork is filled out. It's all noise. It's all meaningless. None of it will matter in the end. They get to the booking desk, and she's placed in front of the officer there. His eyes flicker over her, but he doesn't seem to grasp the weight of the situation. She's just another suspect to him. "What are we booking her for?" he asks, his voice flat. The detective replies, trying to sound confident but failing. "Cocaine possession. Resisting arrest." The woman looks at him, raising an eyebrow. "Resisting arrest? You're really going with that one?" The detective looks uncomfortable. "She didn't cooperate," he mutters, trying to justify it, but the doubt is there. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," the woman says, her voice measured. She stands still, her wrist cuffed, her posture calm. She doesn't fight back. She never needed to. The booking officer frowns. "We'll get your phone call soon enough," he says, but she cuts him off. "That's illegal," she responds, her voice sharp and commanding. The words are simple, but they carry authority. He blinks, clearly caught off guard. "What?" "You don't get to decide when I make my phone call," she adds, unwavering. "I know my rights." The detective shifts uncomfortably. He doesn't like how she's still so calm, so controlled. Most people in her position would be panicking, begging for help, but not her. She's methodical. She knows exactly what's happening. She knows the game they're playing, and she's already one step ahead. The booking officer finally nods and begrudgingly tells her she'll get her phone call, though it's clear he's not happy about it. They continue with the booking process. Fingerprints, photographs, her personal property inventory. But it's when they process her wallet that things take a turn. The booking officer pauses, his fingers stilling over the ID. "Federal government?" he mutters to himself. His voice is quieter now. The detective's head snaps up, his attention caught. "What's that?" The booking officer glances at the ID and then back to her. "She works for the federal government." The detective's hand freezes on the keyboard. He leans over the desk, eyes narrowing. "What kind of federal work?" She doesn't respond right away. Her silence is deliberate. giving them just enough time to stew in their own growing realization that something is terribly wrong. She doesn't need to answer. She knows what's coming next. The booking officer types the information into the system, but his fingers tremble as he presses the keys. The screen flashes and he freezes. A warning appears. The name on the ID doesn't just match any random government employee. It flags her as a federal officer. The room falls silent as the screen loads more details. The woman watches their faces change as the gravity of the situation sinks in. She can practically see the pieces falling into place in their minds. They just arrested a federal agent. Not just any federal agent, but one who's been investigating them, possibly for years. The detective's face drains of color. He takes a step back, muttering under his breath. "This is bad, you think?" The woman says, her voice ice cold. She knows exactly what this means. They've made the mistake of a lifetime, and now it's too late to undo it. The booking officer looks at her again, his voice barely a whisper. "We need to call someone. This isn't good." The detective glares at him. "Don't say a word, but it's already too late. They've crossed a line and they all know it. The woman isn't just some criminal in their custody. She's been gathering evidence on them for years. This arrest? It's the moment everything they've done finally unravels. In the midst of their panic, the woman remains steady. She has everything she needs, and it's all about to come crashing down, and she knows exactly where it starts. The room begins to buzz with confusion and tension. The booking officer's hands are shaking as he picks up the phone to call for higher-ups. The sergeant walks in, his face tight with anxiety. "We need to get her out of here. Fast," the sergeant says to the detective, his voice urgent. But the detective doesn't respond. His eyes are still fixed on the screen, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. He finally mutters, "Run her name through the system. Now." The woman doesn't need to say anything. Her silence speaks volumes. She's already one step ahead, and they have no idea just how deep this goes. As the detective types her name into the system, the tension in the room reaches its peak. The booking officer's expression shifts again, his face now a mixture of shock and disbelief. This can't be right," he murmurs, but it's too late. The evidence is in front of them, and it's only a matter of time before everything they've done, their entire corrupt operation, comes crashing down around them. They just don't know it yet. The woman sits quietly, her heart steady as a drumbeat. This is what she's been waiting for, and soon, they'll all realize the truth they never saw coming. The tension is suffocating, thick enough to cut with a knife as the booking officer stares at the screen in front of him, his fingers frozen over the keys. He's trying to comprehend what's happening, but the numbers, the data, it doesn't make sense. His gaze shifts from the screen to the woman sitting quietly, her hands still cuffed but her posture unbroken. She's not just a suspect, she's a federal agent, an agent investigating them. The detective steps forward, his face pale but his voice remains tight, barely concealing the panic bubbling beneath the surface. "You need to run her name again," he commands, but there's a tremor in his voice. The booking officer hesitates, his mind still processing the bombshell that has just detonated in the room. But the woman doesn't let the silence stretch for too long. She watches them struggle, her thoughts already moving faster than theirs. She knows exactly what they're thinking. It's clear as day. They're trying to find a way out of the trap they've set for themselves. They want to undo their mistake, but it's impossible. She's not just another casualty in their career. She's the reckoning, and it's not just a matter of identity anymore. She's already gathered the evidence. The phone's still charging on her nightstand, the hidden digital recorder, the encrypted data. It's all been meticulously stored. They have no idea what they've just done. The sergeant standing awkwardly by the door looks like he's seen a ghost. His hands shake, a stark contrast to the steely facade he's tried to maintain. "We need to call someone," he mutters, almost as if he's trying to convince himself. His voice cracks, betraying the panic he's desperately trying to suppress. The detective, however, isn't backing down yet. He's trying to regain control, but the pressure is building in the room. His eyes flick from the woman to the booking officer, then back to the sergeant. "We keep this quiet," he orders. But even as he says it, he knows it's already too late. The woman shifts slightly in her seat, a small but deliberate movement, her eyes still fixed on the men before her. "You should have known who you were dealing with," she says, her voice low but clear, cutting through the noise in the room. Her words hit them like a slap to the face. The detective looks at her, frustration turning to fear, but he won't admit it, he can't. He's too far gone, too committed to his position to back down now. "What's your plan, detective?" she asks calmly, raising an eyebrow. "You going to try to bury it? Sweep it under the rug?" The detective doesn't respond immediately. He's staring at her like he's trying to figure her out, but it's too late for that. Her calmness, her unwavering knowledge, her complete understanding of their procedures, it all points to one undeniable truth. She's been one step ahead the entire time. The booking officer finally breaks the silence. "I need to get the higher-ups involved. This isn't right." His voice is tentative, his confidence shattered. "Of course it's not right," the woman replies, her voice steady. "You arrested a federal agent. You've been violating rights for months, maybe longer, and now it's all coming back to you." The sergeant swallows hard. "She's not just any agent," he mutters, but the words hang in the air, too heavy to ignore. They know they're in deeper than they ever imagined. The detective tries to regain some composure, but the uncertainty in his eyes is undeniable. "We need to take this to the captain," he says, but his voice is wavering now. "We'll figure this out." But the woman knows they won't. She's already laid the groundwork. They've been too careless, too arrogant, and now she has them exactly where she wants them. The sergeant's hand trembles as he reaches for his radio, the urgency in his movements betraying his fear. This can't go any further, he mutters to himself, more to soothe his nerves than to reassure anyone else. The radio crackles in response, but the words that follow are lost to the woman's mind. She's already moving past this moment. She's already thinking about the bigger picture. She's been here before, on the other side of this equation. She's been the one collecting evidence, watching corruption unfold behind closed doors. Now it's her turn to make sure justice is served. This arrest, this mistake, they've handed her everything she needs to destroy them. The detective and sergeant share a brief, anxious glance. They know what's coming next. They know they've lost control, but they still hope for a way out, a way to spin the story, a way to manipulate the truth. They think they can hide their sins. But the woman knows better. This isn't going to be swept away. The woman finally speaks, her voice cutting through the growing tension like a sharp blade.
"I'll tell you what's going to happen next."
"You're going to make your calls, try to cover your tracks, and by the time you're done, you'll be in federal custody. Your whole department is going down. This isn't just about me. It's about all of you. The corruption, the lies, it's all over now." Her words hang in the air like a dark omen, and for the first time the detective's mask slips. He looks at her with an expression of disbelief, the weight of her statement sinking in. "You don't get it, do you?" she continues, her eyes narrowing. "You've been under investigation for months, and now you've made the biggest mistake of your careers. The evidence is already out there. You just don't know it yet." The booking officer's hands begin to shake again as he looks at the screen, knowing that something irreversible has been set into motion. His eyes flicker toward the sergeant, then back to the woman. He wants to ask more questions to get clarification, but the truth is already starting to dawn on him. They've walked into a trap that's been set for them from the very beginning. The woman stays calm. She's not in a hurry. She's already won. Outside the station, the world keeps turning. The streets are still quiet, the sounds of the city moving on as if nothing has changed. But for those inside, everything has just shifted. The air is charged, the tension palpable, and every movement feels like it could be the one that unravels them all. The detective mutters under his breath, his voice strained. "We need to make sure she doesn't get away with this, but she's already way ahead." The seconds feel like hours as the woman sits quietly in the holding room, the cold metal chair beneath her pressing into her back. She watches the clock on the wall, the rhythmic ticking amplifying the silence that surrounds her. Outside the small room, the faint sound of footsteps echoes down the hallway. Officers moving quickly now, frantic. The panic is spreading. She knows what comes next. They'll try to bury it. They'll try to erase the evidence. But it's too late for that. The recordings are secure. The digital evidence locked away in a place they'll never find. The mistakes have already been made. The damage is done, but they don't know that yet. They're still trying to maintain control. Through the thin walls of the holding room, she can hear snippets of conversation, frantic whispers, low voices cutting through the tension. A few officers murmur to each other, but their words are hard to make out. Then the unmistakable voice of the detective cuts through the noise. "We need to get rid of the body cam footage," he says, his voice shaking with urgency. "We can't let them trace this back to us." Her pulse remains steady. She's been expecting this. Of course they'll try to cover it up, but they're not going to succeed. She has everything on record, every word, every illegal search, every piece of evidence they planted. It's all captured. They're walking right into her trap. The sound of footsteps grows louder as the sergeant and detective approach the holding room. The door opens and the detective steps in, his face a mask of forced calm. But she sees the tension in his eyes, the nervous glances he shoots toward the sergeant who follows close behind. "Agent Marshall," the detective begins, his tone clipped. "We're going to take you to a different holding area for processing." She doesn't respond immediately. She watches them carefully, taking note of their every movement, the subtle shifts in their demeanor. The sergeant looks at her with a mix of confusion and fear, clearly uncomfortable with the way the situation is unfolding. "Sure," she says finally, her voice calm, betraying none of the frustration she feels. "But first I'd like to make that phone call." The detective hesitates. He's trying to maintain control, but it's slipping away from him. The sergeant looks over at him, his face pale. "We've already handled the paperwork," he mutters, barely audible. "We can't let her make contact with anyone." "Not yet." The woman leans back in her chair, crossing her arms. "The law says I'm entitled to a phone call. Are you really willing to break that one too?" The detective's eyes flicker with doubt. He knows the rules. He knows she's right. But his pride and desperation are clouding his judgment. "Fine," he says with a tight-lipped smile, "but don't expect any special treatment." As he gestures for the sergeant to open the door, the woman stands slowly, her mind already racing ahead. She's already planted the seeds of doubt in their minds. She's already exposed the cracks in their armor. Now it's time to make them all come apart at the seams. They move through the halls of the police station, the fluorescent lights overhead flickering as if reflecting the growing uncertainty in the air. Her handcuffs clink with every step, but she moves with the grace of someone who knows they're on the winning side of the fight. They reach the phone, a dusty old machine bolted to the wall in a corner of the station. The sergeant takes a step back, his eyes darting around nervously. The detective stands at the door, watching her closely, his fingers twitching, itching to make sure she doesn't make a call that could undo everything. She picks up the receiver without hesitation, her fingers brushing the cold metal. She dials a number she knows by heart, a number she's had memorized for years. It rings once, twice. Then, a voice answers on the other end, crisp and professional. "This is Special Agent Rodriguez." "Who's this?" The woman's lips curl into a faint smile. She knew the moment she made the call it would all change. "It's Diana Marshall," she says, her voice clear and authoritative. "I need backup." Rodriguez's voice sharpens immediately. "Agent Marshall? Where are you?" "Are you secure?" "I'm fine," she replies calmly, her eyes flicking to the detective who's watching her closely. "But I need you to get a team ready. It's time. The officers here, they're trying to cover up their tracks, and I've got it all on record." There's a beat of silence on the other end. Rodriguez processes the information quickly, his mind already in motion. "Understood," he says firmly. "We're mobilizing now. Hold tight." "Backup is en route." "Good," she replies, her voice steady. "And make sure the body camera footage is secured. These officers aren't as clean as they think they are. They made a lot of mistakes tonight." The detective steps forward as if to interrupt, but she raises a hand, halting him. "Not another step," she warns, her voice low but filled with command. "This call is protected. You can't stop it." The detective doesn't move. He's realized the magnitude of the situation now. His eyes flicker between her and the phone, the weight of his mistake starting to sink in. The sergeant steps back too, his nerves beginning to show as the realization of what they've done spreads through him. Rodriguez's voice comes through the receiver again. "You're doing well, Agent Marshall. We'll be there soon. Keep your head down and stay calm." She's already calm. She's been calm this whole time. The storm is coming and she's ready for it. She hangs up the phone, placing the receiver back on its hook with deliberate slowness, locking eyes with the detective as she does. "Your time is up," she says, her voice like a quiet storm on the horizon. "You've made your move. Now it's mine." The detective doesn't respond. He doesn't need to. His face tells the whole story. This is over. They've lost control. And in that moment, she knows the truth. This is the beginning of the end for them. The door to the holding room opens, and the sergeant steps aside as two other officers enter. Their faces grim, their eyes narrowing at her. They don't know who she is yet, but they will. She's already one step ahead. They don't even realize that they've been exposed, that the last pieces of the puzzle are falling into place. And soon, the world will see them for what they really are: criminals. The air in the holding room feels heavier now, each breath she takes tasting like impending justice. The moment is almost here, the final stage of a game she's been playing for years, but no one knew the rules except her. The pieces are in place, the trap has been set, and now, with everything in motion, there's no turning back. As the two officers step inside, they pause for just a moment, sizing her up. She meets their gazes with an unflinching stare, their uncertainty tangible. They don't know who she really is. Yet. The sergeant lingers in the doorway, his fingers tapping nervously against the frame. He knows this isn't a typical arrest. He knows she isn't just another suspect, but it's too late now. They've already crossed that line and there's no going back. She stands up slowly, deliberately. The handcuffs, while a physical reminder of their control over her, do nothing to diminish the certainty in her posture. Every move she makes is calculated, every word she speaks deliberate. She's not just playing their game anymore. She's about to end it. "You're not taking me anywhere," she says with calm authority, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The officers exchange glances, unsure of how to proceed. The detective, who's been silent up until now, clears his throat, trying to regain some semblance of control. "We're transferring you to county," he says, his voice tight with frustration. He's trying to sound confident, but it's clear to everyone in the room that his earlier certainty has evaporated. "I don't think that's going to happen," she responds coolly. "Not unless you want to explain to your superiors why you're illegally transporting a federal agent." The room falls silent. The sergeant shifts uncomfortably, the weight of the situation sinking in. He knows exactly what she means. They've already crossed too many lines, violated too many rules. One more mistake and they're looking at a case they can't cover up. The detective, clearly growing more desperate, steps forward. "You don't have any evidence," he sneers, trying to bluff his way through. "We'll just deny everything. You're a criminal. No one will believe you." The woman's lips curl into a faint smile, but there's no humor in it. "I don't need anyone to believe me. I have the evidence, and it's all recorded." The detective falters, the smugness draining from his face. His eyes dart to the door as if looking for an escape route. But there's nowhere to run now. His mind races, he knows the cameras are running. He knows that every movement, every action, every word he said is being logged. The woman has already played her hand and she's holding all the aces. The sergeant's hand trembles as he reaches for his radio, but his voice cracks when he speaks. "We need backup. We need to clean this up now." "Backup?" The woman scoffs, her voice dripping with disdain. "The only backup you'll need is a lawyer, because you're about to need one." The room is charged with the silent understanding that their fate has already been sealed. Outside, the sound of the sirens begins to grow louder, an ominous signal that the end is drawing near. And then everything shifts. The door slams open with a suddenness that shocks the room. A team of federal agents enters, moving with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The woman's backup has arrived. "Special Agent Marshall," one of the federal agents calls out, his voice filled with urgency. "You're safe now." The detective steps back instinctively, his face drained of all color. The sergeant, who has been holding on to his last shred of confidence, looks like he's seen a ghost. They've been outplayed at every turn, and now the agents are here. Real federal agents, the ones who have been watching them all along. The woman doesn't move an inch. She simply stands still, a calm expression on her face. She knew this moment would come. She's been planning for it, waiting for it every step of the way. The lead agent, a tall man with a sharp jaw and cold eyes, looks over at the two officers who stand frozen by the door. "You're under arrest for multiple charges, including evidence tampering, violation of constitutional rights, and obstruction of justice," he announces, his voice clear and cold. The detective opens his mouth, but no words come out. The sergeant tries to make a move, but the agent steps forward, effortlessly putting him in a hold. The last threads of control slip away, leaving them vulnerable and exposed. "You've been under investigation for months," the woman speaks, her voice steady as she addresses the officers. "All of you. And now you're facing the consequences of your actions." The room falls into an eerie quiet as the gravity of the situation hits home. The detectives, the sergeant, and the captain, None of them ever expected the woman they thought they'd arrested to be their undoing. But here she stands, unshaken and victorious, the truth hanging in the air like a guillotine waiting to drop. The federal agents move quickly, gathering the officers in cuffs, their faces filled with disbelief and regret. It's all happening too fast for them to process. The woman remains calm, her eyes locked on the detective's face as he's led away in handcuffs. "Everything you did," she says, her voice quiet but filled with cold finality, "has been recorded. Your lies, your corruption, it's all on tape." The detective, now handcuffed and visibly shaken, looks up at her with a mixture of fear and desperation. "You don't understand," he says, his voice breaking. "We had to do it. We were just following orders." The woman shakes her head. "You were following your own greed, and now it's over." With that, she steps aside as the federal agents secure the officers, moving quickly through the station to clear the scene. The woman's face remains expressionless, her mind already moving forward to the next phase. But deep inside, she feels a quiet satisfaction. Justice is being served. As the agents prepare to escort her out of the building, she stops for a moment, glancing back at the now broken department. The walls, once symbols of power, now feel like tombs. The corruption, the lies, all of it will be exposed. The truth can't be hidden anymore. She steps into the elevator, the doors closing with a soft ding. The woman stands tall, every inch the federal agent she's always been. She's not done. Not yet. Outside, the dawn is breaking. The first light of the morning illuminates the streets as the woman walks toward the waiting SUV. The city, unaware of the storm that just passed, continues on. But for her, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. The woman, once a silent observer, is now the one making the change. And she'll keep going, one case at a time until the truth has been heard.